Hi there, this is Chrissy Long from Blissful Birthing, coming to you from Costa Rica, and I just wanted to put my thoughts out there based on some feedback that I've been receiving from my advertisements on Facebook about my Blissful Birthing course and the free webinars that I'm doing at the moment for women who are pregnant and are going to be giving birth during the coronavirus. Now, some of the feedback has been quite disturbing for me, and maybe I've been taking it a little bit too personally, and I know that any comments really aren't personal, it's just other people's fears that they are like putting out there, giving back to me. But basically, some of them were around natural birth, and lots of women were kind of leaving feedback and comments saying that it was just something that they couldn't even contemplate, that OBGYN or whoever had been telling them that they weren't the right candidate for it, that they were going for planned C-sections, and all of that kind of thing, and that my advert was actually being quite manipulative in itself, because I was talking about the fears that women might be experiencing right now being pregnant during the coronavirus outbreak, and the fears they might have around going into hospitals with the coronavirus, and also the fact that the staff are overstretched, etc. It was good feedback in a way, because it made me realise that fear is a marketing tool, but it wasn't what I was actually trying to do to promote my course. I was just trying to be compassionate and empathise with the women out there that are feeling those kind of fears, because they're bound to be, right? If it's not around the birth itself, it's around the world that their babies are going to be coming into, because it's just such an unprecedented time, and we just don't know what's happening economically speaking, socially, all that stuff. But it made me really think about how fear is used a lot in hospitals to coerce women into having various types of interventions, be it from just checking how dilated you are to breaking your waters, or be it to encouraging you to be induced with Pitocin, or insisting that you need an epidural to deal with the pain, and then either having an episiotomy without your consent just because they had to do an episiotomy, or suddenly saying it's an emergency C-section, the baby's in distress. Now, all these tactics and things that happen are very, very heavily based on fear, and not truly telling the woman what's going on and what the flip side could be. Like, what are the downsides of having, I don't know, an internal check to see how dilated you are? A downside of that could be that it freezes you up. Your body doesn't like a complete stranger going up there. It makes no difference to the way your labour's progressing if they know you're 2 centimetres or 5 or 6. Like, I've never ever allowed anyone to check my dilation, because I knew that my body would clamp up. So just that alone, which seems like a very innocent, normal thing to do to a woman during labour in hospital, can actually be quite traumatic, and to me it would be quite violent, because I don't want someone doing that. I want things to be coming out and down of me, not in and up me, right? And it also increases the rate of infection, and if they break your waters too early when the baby doesn't want that to happen, that can lead to complications too. And then the other interventions I mentioned are a lot worse. They're a lot bigger. So, for example, if they say to you, right, you're failing to progress, that's a really common one, or it makes you feel firstly inadequate as a woman, as a birthing woman, that your body suddenly shut down. They haven't told you you're failing to progress because you're in a new environment that you don't know, with bright lights, with strangers around you, and that's a completely normal reaction, because your oxytocin levels have now been completely brought back down again, and you're no longer able to be in the birth process. So instead of saying to you, what can we do to relax you? Should we put the lights down low? Should we minimize the amount of people coming in? When people come in, they'll speak in hushed tones, they'll speak to you, not to the machines. They'll actually look at you, they'll touch you gently if that's okay with you. They'll switch the beeping machines down a notch, or whatever. They'll ask you for your consent if you want to have straps and monitors put on you, rather than, they might be freaking you out. None of that, is being told to women. So they're often told, you have to have the artificial Pitocin to shimmy things along for their benefit, because they want you out there as quickly as possible. They don't tell you, if we give you Pitocin and you agree because you want, these to be speeded up because you failed to progress, that Pitocin in itself can cause mammoth contractions that are completely artificial, that would never be that strong in a normal labour, which more often than not makes you beg for the epidural that you wouldn't have needed if you'd been in normal labour, right? The epidural in turn makes you not be able to move properly and get into positions you need to get into for the natural birthing state. So suddenly you're on your back in bed, completely incompetent, like, you can't use the lower part of your body, like I said, to get into positions. That means you're going to have to be pushing like a maniac to even get the baby out, and you won't feel it, so you'll be damaging your pelvic floor. So labour could take a lot longer with a lot stronger contractions, which then often puts the baby in fetal distress, genuine fetal distress, and like I said, could damage your pelvic floor, and then suddenly an emergency C-section is required. No one tells you at the initial point when they're advising you to have Pitocin to speed along your labour, but that is very often what will happen. Maybe they haven't connected the dots themselves, I don't know. Maybe they have, because they know that by doing that, it's just going to make this go quicker, and they feel more comfortable with C-sections because OBGYNs, they're there for surgery. They're not there to watch natural, physiological, beautiful births, yeah? They probably haven't even seen one. They're there to deal with emergencies, so that's their safe environment. That's their terrain that they're used to. So the point of my videos, lady, the point of my course, and the marketing I'm doing, is to basically say that birth isn't just birth. Not all births are equal at all. The point of my course is to give you the best birth possible. And the best birth possible can only ever come about if you are truly empowered and armed with all the information that you need to know how your body works naturally, what you need your environment to be, what you need from your care providers, what you need from your environment. Which is why, yes, there is a bias to my opinion that home birth or a birth centre with a midwife, of course always with a midwife, so that you've got the medical side covered, is a superior option if you can have it. Because you are going to be invariably much calmer, you're going to be on your turf, and your oxytocin levels are going to be maintained to such an extent that you're going to birth much less problematically than if you were in an environment that isn't your own. However, my course isn't exclusively for people that can only have a birth in a birth centre or at home. It does extend to those of you that feel safer in a hospital or may have to go into hospital for another reason. Because my course will arm you that when you're in that environment, when you're in a zone that isn't your own, that you can still, you know what to ask for, basically. You're an empowered woman. You know to say, no, I don't want that. Thank you, because of this, this, and this. I know that that will lead to this and this. And could you please ask me before you give me, I don't know, an episiotomy, because I'd like to have a choice in the matter. It will just set the scene for you. I've had a hospital birth the first time, and I'm really glad I have now, because I was very empowered going in. I planned for a home birth. I had a doula by my side. Sadly, my midwife couldn't stay with me because she was a community midwife, so she couldn't come into the hospital. So I didn't have the consistency of care that I would have liked to have had when I entered the hospital environment, and there were shift changes and stuff like that. But the fact that I had my doula as a constant, and I had all that knowledge, and my husband, we knew what to say. They were trying to do the normal protocol stuff in a hospital, like put straps to me, monitor the baby, break my waters, make me stay on the bed. And I could say, with respect, no thank you. I don't want you to check how dilated I am. I don't want that monitoring me because it's really freaking me out with all the beeping, and the baby doesn't like it. It's kicking it off every time we have a contraction. I don't want you to tell me when the baby's heart rate's going up or down, because that's just normal in the birth process, so no thanks. I actually want to go on the toilet, and I'm going to sit there for a while because that's what I feel more comfortable. And we'll call you. You don't have to come to me every 2 minutes. I've got it. Thank you. It's nice to know you're there in the background, but I don't want you prodding and poking me all the time. Could we respect that, please? And they did. And I had a beautiful birth in hospital. It is possible, but it was because I was empowered, So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. And it's a bit of a weird analogy came to me last night to try and explain that birth isn't just birth. You can have birth, it can be quite traumatic, but to all intents and purposes was fine on paper in hospital, because people just did things to you that were routine there, but you didn't give your consent to it, or you felt manipulated. And it's a bit like sex. Like, say you're losing your virginity, or you're trying to explain to your daughter, someone you really care deeply about, because I really do care deeply about you, and that's why I'm doing this course. just feels so cool to do it, because I've heard so many traumatic experiences, and I don't want that anymore for womankind. It's just so unnecessary. So anyway, say your daughter was going to lose her virginity. Would you not much rather she lost her virginity to somebody that she loved and loved her, that they were in the safety of their own home somewhere, you know, where it was all done in a very loving, respectful, beautiful way, that she was prepared for how it might feel, and how to have everything with consent, you know, that it was done gently and lovingly, compared to your daughter's going to lose her virginity with a complete stranger who doesn't respect or care for her. He just wants to have his way with her, and it's in some horrible like alleyway or motel room or at someone's house, you know, and she's actually left afterwards feeling like she didn't want to do that. Was that it? That was quite traumatic. That was painful. That wasn't enjoyable. So, you know, sex isn't sex. It's not just the same. You can either have a beautiful experience or quite a horrible one. And birth, in the same analogy, isn't just birth. We shouldn't just be saying to people that are trying to coerce us to have a birth the way they think is good for you is necessarily what you think is good for you. You know, this is your moment. This is your baby's moment. This is the most important day of your baby's life. You have to be the lioness that protects whatever you decide is more important to you. But this course is about empowering you to be that person in whatever environment you should find yourself in, so that no one can violate you or traumatize you. And I'm saying this not to scare you, but to genuinely empower you. So I hope that the essence of what my whole calling is about is not being misinterpreted and got the wrong way, that it truly is about making sure that you avoid trauma and go towards bliss and ecstasy, because it really can be the most beautiful experience of your life. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.